I just had a quick question right here. Right here. How you doing? I just had a quick question. I'm going to change this. Should I stand up? I'll stand up. I'll make it easy for everybody. There you go. I just had a quick question. I want to kind of change the Jaws conversation in the last 10 people, respectfully. So I'm a musician, so I look at film and movies a little differently when I look at horror movies. And my question to you is, can you elaborate or give your opinion on the take on music when it comes to horror movies? A couple of examples I made. John Carpenter. I mean, the music, he literally is a musician. You know, he's on tour right now, if I remember correctly, with his band, performing some of his music from his movies. And then versus when you have other movies say that, maybe I'm a minority here, but movies that are relatively decent and then end with a rap song, and it sounds like, you know, you know what I'm talking about? So, something that kind of like maybe doesn't stick a landing, I guess. So I personally feel that apart from the jump scares, apart from the gore, apart from these arguments of what is or what is not a horror, the stance on music and movies themselves, particularly when it comes to horror, in my opinion, really plays a part as far as the impact of that film and or how we view it or how we remember it, in my opinion. I want to see what you have to say.
Well, every director is different when it comes to how they use music in a horror film, or how they use silence in a horror film as music. But in general, American directors tend to use scary music for scary scenes, whereas a lot of the European directors will use sort of operatic or happy movies in the middle of the most gruesome kills that you've ever seen. So they use the music as counterpoint. Dario Argento does that all the time. So I mean, it just completely depends on the project. And it also depends on who you can afford. You know, one reason that Bird with Crystal Plumage gets the credit for being the first Giallo, even though it was 6 years after Blood and Black Lace, is that Dario Argento's dad was friends with Ennio Morricone, and so Ennio Morricone did that score for that movie. You know, who was already super famous around the world for his Sergio Leone scores. Is one of the great things about horror scoring is there's no pattern for it. And a lot of times the best horror scores have no instrumental music whatsoever. They have sounds. Pretty much that's true of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And there are other films like that have a whole bunch of weird sounds, none of them made by musical instruments. And sometimes those are the most brilliant scores. So I mean, you can't really say, you know, who does it better. So I mean, Harry Manfredini gets credit and John Carpenter gets credit because you can play their scores on an album. You know, you can listen to those over and over. You can't really listen to the score of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You know.
So I would say I'm a big fan of metal and horror. Like, I think that does really well, and I think that needs to be brought back. And I listen to horror metal albums over and over and over again.
What's the best one?
Oh Lord, don't get me started. The one I go back to the most is probably Trick or Treat is amazing. Fucking Nightmare on Elm Street 4 has some great ones. Like Dream Warriors was playing, that should count.
Yes!
Yes!
We're twins again.
Yay!
My sister is here. Just so you know, in a non-controversial way, you raised a couple of queer Latina sisters in the early 90s with Monster Vision.
What does that mean? You were disobeying mom in order to watch Monster Vision?
That means my dad's a great guy, but you were around more than he was. And so, we left horror movies, and I was wondering if there is a horror movie that you saw that you hated and then actually grew to really like and champion later.
Whoa, horror movie that I hated and then started liking later? You know, nothing springs to mind when I think about that. I mean, the ones I liked are the ones I still like, and the ones I hated are the ones I still hate.
Okay, I would say maybe Troma's War.
Maybe what?
Troma's War.
Well, Troma's
You
War.
threw that across the room when we first watched it, and I'm
really,
like, maybe it's not that bad.
Yeah, when Troma's War first came out, I really hated it.
Right.
When we showed it on the show, I had to rewatch it, and I was like, okay, it's got a couple of good performances in it. But
You hated it less.
I hated it less. I didn't end up loving it. And you know, it's got the whole making fun of AIDS victims part of it. You know, it's like Lloyd just goes wherever he wants to go, and he doesn't really care what people say. So no, I wouldn't say I ended up loving Troma's War.
You liked it better.
This isn't horror, but I remember a controversial take you had. You weren't big on Back to the Future. What do you want to say about that?
And tell the truth.
I'm not big on time travel in general. I'm not a big fan of time travel movies of any kind. And I don't know if any of you remember whenever we would have a time travel movie on Monster Vision, I would bring out the chalkboard and I would explain the second law of thermodynamics, which says that the entire universe is slowly disintegrating and mass is becoming less and less and less. And so if you go back in time, if you go backwards in time, you're going to explode. And so I never bought the concept that H.G. Wells established in the 1890s or whenever he wrote The Time Machine. And even though there's some very entertaining time travel movies, but I was just never into it.
You're just too smart to have fun. That's fine. Anyone else have anything?
Would you say that The Exorcist is, well, going back to the elevated horror title, I guess, would you say The Exorcist is kind of one of the early kind of like elevated horror because of all the
The Exorcist,
popularity and all that?
The Exorcist movies are kind of a genre of their own. William Peter Blatty was a Catholic academic, theological-oriented egghead, and he put every kind of idea into those movies, and he was not well served by the people who did Exorcist 3.
It's better.
You like Exorcist 3?
Yep. Better than the first one? Yeah.
Better than the first one.
Yes. I said what I said.
Does that really make sense why they bring in that Brit priest at the end to do an exorcist? They haven't talked about the whole movie?
It's still more fun. It's still more interesting.
Okay.
I don't want the slow exorcist burn.
Okay. Anyway, the Exorcist movies, I think the reason they're so hard to remake, by the way, is because it was all in the peculiar philosophy of William Peter Blatty, and he put all that kind of like highfalutin philosophy. Talk about elevated horror. Yes. If you're asking, is that elevated horror? Yes. The Exorcist movies are elevated horror. They go deep into Catholic academia to get what they're talking about in those movies. So yes.
All right. Oh, you're so fun.
I don't know.
I'm coming.
Nobody wants to go home?
No, I'm coming.
How many of you been here for 3 days? Okay.
One of my favorite in the 90s shows that introduced me to a movie that I love was not actually horror, but it was you teaching me about the New York subway system for the Warriors. What are some of your other favorite non-horror genre films that you've shown and that you like to revisit?
Oh, well, films that I've shown the films that I've hosted. Man, I mean, there's so many, I can't, I've hosted, a lot of times I can't remember whether I hosted it on the movie channel or on Monster Vision or whether I did a DVD commentary for it. I just can't remember.
I feel like if you
exactly.
just answer, no one will know. So just be like, no.
Answer what?
Just say what it is, whether you hosted it.
I remember, there's some films where I loved doing the commentary. I'm not that crazy about the movie. Like Samurai Cop is one of them. And, but I think that was a DVD. I don't think I ever hosted it. I Spit on Your Grave. Nobody will really let me talk about I Spit on Your Grave. I've tried to get it on, I did the commentary track on the DVD release, but I've never been able to get any network anywhere to air I Spit on Your Grave. And
I feel like that's not what he's asking in any way.
what?
That's not the question at all. What is a non-horror film that you enjoy?
A non-horror film that I enjoy?
Yes,
Oh,
great,
man.
that's close.
I mean, there's lots of them. I mean, I'm a big fan of film noir, so, you know, The Hustler. I love The Hustler. Requiem for a Heavyweight. Lawrence of Arabia. I mean, I love great films.
I would add like Emmanuel and stuff like that. They don't count as horror, but you're a fan of those.
Well,
And you posted them.
you know, the
You're not an
Emmanuel
Emmanuel fan? I don't even know you.
I like them. You know, the kind of like softcore, lesbian-oriented porn. It was done before the age of porn, like in the early 70s. You know, it's really hard to watch today.
Go on.
It's like it just doesn't deliver much in terms of. It was all about, you know, it was kind of a hippie thing. It was like free love. You know, Emmanuel, she has a free spirit, and she goes anywhere and has sex with anything that moves, and she doesn't care if it's a man, a woman, you know, 3 men, 3 women.
And you're
Doesn't matter.
complaining.
Huh?
You're complaining about this.
No, I'm just saying that would be the story, but then the sex scenes wouldn't be that interesting, and then it wouldn't resolve. You know, they would have no resolution to the story. Where does she eventually like gets in?
Emmanuel needs more plot.
She gets in a car. She gets in a car and drives away. So yeah, but
How long is it supposed to go, by the way? Are we just
I
doing
did
this all night?
an Emmanuel marathon on.
I know, that's why I brought it up.
On I think I did it on Showtime. You know, they brought me over from the movie channel to Showtime to do the Emmanuel marathon, and it wasn't just the original Sylvia Crystal Emmanuel. We also did the single M Emmanuel. Double M Emmanuel is Sylvia Crystal.
Sorry.
Single M Emmanuel are Italian movies starring Laura Gimsa. And we did both. We did both on the Emmanuel marathon. And some of them were better than others, but they, you know, they weren't that.
We're changing the subject.
They weren't that high. Okay.
What are your guys' thoughts on 13 Ghosts?
13 Ghosts,
Because
the original?
Yeah, the original and the one with Matthew in it, because I feel it's so underrated.
I like the
Well-
remake better. Do you? The first one's amazing, don't get me wrong. But I love the remake.
Well, I thought the original, that is an example of where you took something that wasn't quite up to par and made it better.
Yeah.
Because of the William Castle films, I didn't think that was one of the strongest ones.
Yeah.
But, and most of those William Castle remakes were not that good.
Yeah.
But that one was better than the
Oh,
others.
no.
Yeah. Huh?
I'm not agreeing with you.
You loved the William Castle remakes?
I'm not a fan.
You're not a fan?
Correct. I mean,
Okay.
it's strong, but.
All right. Anybody else? I don't know how much time.
Here we go. I don't know, we're just going until they tell me to stop. I don't know.
Okay.
Do you think Final Girls are feminist or
anti-feminist? Because, you know the arguments, but what do you think?
Final girls are neither feminist nor anti-feminist. Final girls are a way to identify, a genderless way to identify with the endangered protagonist. And I think the reason that it became the final girl and not the final boy, or not the final something else, is that it's easier to, on film everything is visual, and it's easier to show vulnerability on a female, or it was at the time that those movies were made. And so a lot of times, obviously you can't always justify a shower scene, but the way you could justify a shower scene is it makes the female protagonist really vulnerable. A male shower scene, like in prison or whatever, doesn't make the males that vulnerable. And so, as a
I would argue it could. It doesn't have to be explicit.
as an art director, these decisions were made, and it became the final girl. But the final girl is also frequently pursued by a killer whose gender is confused. And so it can be, it's half male, half female, and so.
What?
Yeah.
It's true. It's like there's example after example. But anyway, Carol
There's
Clover.
some, I guess.
Carol Clover, who invented. I was talking to Carol Clover at the time she was writing that book. She invented the term "final girl," and she noted that most of the audience for the horror films of that time were adolescent boys. They were age 14 to 19. And the final girl gave them a way to feel the feminine part of their psyche as they experienced the terror of the girl. And she thought that it was a way for them to put aside the reason it made it terrifying. The reason it was terrifying to them is that they could put aside their macho pose and become feminine as they watched that event happen. This is never talked about when people talk about Carol Clover, but that was, that is sort of where she went from. She said, this is for adolescent boys, and it's a gender reversal, and that's why it's always the final girl. And it was true at the time that adolescent boys were the principal audience for those types of horror films.
Well, okay. Anyone else? Here we go.
Tried to get Carol Clover to come on the show and explain that, because I hate it when people talk about the final girl and they don't know what they're talking about.
So a question for you, how would you classify Alien? Horror or sci-fi?
It's both. I mean, a lot of sci-fi is horror and a lot of horror is sci-fi. I mean, they cross over, they're adjacent. It's both. I mean, it's just, sci-fi is mostly horror in outer space or horror in a scientific environment, so I don't know. That kind of, when they formed the Sci-Fi Channel, whenever that was in the 90s, they should have called that the Horror Channel. It would have had a lot more material, but they formed that at the time that it was the Star Trek was a big deal, and Trek conventions were the big deal, and they thought, oh, this is the beachfront property in cable, Sci-Fi Channel. And then I think very quickly they discovered, we would have been better off if we'd gone horror, because there was a lot more product, and they started showing horror, and sort of became, and then that's why they changed it to SYFY. So it wouldn't be sci-fi, it wouldn't really be sci-fi anymore, it'd be, however you say that. How do you say SYFY? I don't know. But,
You can go on a
but
tangent,
anyway,
sir.
they're adjacent. They're adjacent.
Anything else? Okay, go ahead.
These are good questions.
They are. But I didn't know I was doing this, I wasn't born healed.
Crossover genres, can documentaries ever be considered as horror? 'Cause, like, I think Blood of the Beast is one of the scariest films I've ever seen, and my favorite movie to watch in October is Jesus Camp. They're not made intended to be horror, but can they be horror?
Horror documentary. I don't know, that's an interesting idea. I mean, you're sort of crossing over into true crime when you talk about that. But in general, true crime documentaries are not scary. You can try to make them scary. You can, in the early part of the film when it's like, so there's a killer on the rampage or whatever, but you know that it's going to end unscary. and so I would think the same thing would be true of documentaries, unless they're sort of open-ended, and you're talking about, and you're doing stuff like, all supernatural phenomena shows are sort of open-ended documentaries. It's like, has one of those ghost hunter shows ever actually found a ghost? And then there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of ghost hunter shows and paranormal shows looking for the ghost. Have they ever captured one ghost?
They think so.
They have?
They think so.
There's been an actual verified image of a ghost. It's like, that would be a scary documentary because you finish the documentary and the ghost is still out there. You haven't found him.
Hey, Renault. It's Joe Bob, y'all. Ask him his favorite pizza. Who cares? Who wants to ask anything? What's your favorite pizza, Joe Bob? Someone else.
You know that.
I know, but they asked. Answer it.
What? Favorite
What's your favorite
pizza?
pizza? Yeah.
Pepperoni.
Yay.
Unrelated to horror, but it's just my favorite part. Do you have any jokes for us? Jokes.
Any jokes?
I feel like that's probably a good way to go out, because, like, seriously, how long are we doing that?
Should I tell the joke that never gets a laugh?
No, because I already proved it gets laughs, so stop saying that.
I've never gotten a laugh on it.
Who saw the footage from whatever con you were at where the whole audience laughed so you never had
No,
to
they
do it
laughed
again?
because they weren't laughing.
No, that's a lie. That's fine, tell your joke. No one laughs, go for it.
I've been telling this joke for years, and when I told it on the show, it got no laugh. It didn't get a single laugh from a single crew member. And then I thought, well, I must have told it wrong because it's a really good joke. And then I kept telling it and telling it and telling it. And you said there was one place where people actually liked
They
it.
died. You promised you
All
would
right.
stop doing this thing.
Maybe this will be the second. Maybe this will be the second place that likes the joke.
Okay, let's do it.
Two nuns are riding bicycles side by side on the street, and they turn a corner, and one nun says to the other one, "I've never come this way before." And the second nun says, "It's the cobblestones."
Laugh louder so you can hear it. Oh my God,
That was a moderate, delayed laugh.
because we've heard it so much now.
Okay, I don't know, what are we, what
The
time?
con ended like 8 hours ago.
Oh my God, we may not be able to get out of the building.
I don't know.
I'm getting a signal from over here that our time is up, so
Okay.
thanks everyone.
Yay.
We're lucky to have